to ladies' lockup.
Welcome to hell, Aggie.
Tender teens find tough times. Hard bodies play hard ball. And warm showers lead to cold steel.
It's no prison. This is an insane asylum.
From John McNaughton, director of Mad Dog and Glory, Ione Skye,
Welcome to the country club.
Missy Crider,
We'll have to place you in isolation.
For how long? Till I go insane too?
and Bahni Turpin
I used to go out with boys, but there aren't any boys in here.
in a caged hell. Some are not guilty,
If you don't help me, they're gonna bury me in the prison graveyard.
I need some information.
but no one is innocent. Girls in prison.
We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I've brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're gonna catch me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, Doctor, help me!
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're gonna make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first!
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
Welcome to the American International Podcast, where we're breaking out another episode from the Showtime series Rebel Highway. I'm Jeff Markin,
I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
and this week we're talking crime, confinement, and camp with Girls in Prison, which originally aired on August 19th, 1994.
Girls in Prison was written by Samuel Fuller and Christa Lang. It was directed by John McNaughton and produced by Lou Arkoff, Deborah Hill, and Willie Kuttner for Showtime Networks, Spelling Film International, and American International Pictures.
Girls in Prison stars Missy Crider as Aggie O'Hanlon, Ione Skye as Carol Madison, Bahni Turpin as Melba Mason, Anne Heche as Jennifer, Nicolette Scorsese as Suzy, Harvey Chow as Lum Fong.
It also stars Ralph Myring Jr. as Jim Jeffrey, Miguel Sandoval as Lucky, J. Patrick McCormick as Gordon Madison, John Polito as Boss Said Johnson, Angie Ray McKinney as Miranda, Richmond Arquette as Detective Dan Campion, Tom Towles as Norman Stoneface, the prison guard, and Raymond O'Connor as Mickey Maven.
The movie opens with credits over kind of an old-fashioned noir-type opening.
Yeah, it really gives off that impression. The music is dramatic. There's just the silhouette of a prisoner behind the silhouette of prison bars. She's smoking a cigarette. She's just sort of pacing back and forth. I thought it was a really cool open. I'm a big fan of films from the 40s and 50s of this genre, so I thought it was a nice homage. I thought the font and the title was pretty cool, too.
Well, after the credits, there was a even fancier font. I don't know if it's better, but it tells us that once upon a time in Hollywood lived three beautiful girls in their late teens.
And let's visit the first one. We're at Lum Fong's radio and television shop where Melba works. On an old-fashioned TV, Melba and one of the customers see the news from the Korean War.
And in an unfortunate coincidence, the shot that they show is of her brother, who is recently deceased.
I don't think they would show a dead soldier on TV in the 1950s.
I don't think they do it today.
Yeah, it's really tasteless. But obviously we have to move the plot along. So she screams and runs home where she finds her mom dead from an apparent heart attack.
Yeah, she was watching that same news report and had a heart attack when she heard the news.
Ugh, irresponsible journalism.
But Melba's going to plan her revenge. The next scene has her bringing flowers to the news station.
She wants to give them to the newsreader, who's the person that's responsible for her brother's unfortunate outing as a dead person. She gets waved in, and though the announcer is happy to see her with the flowers...
I think he's live on air at this point, too,
Yeah.
when he brings her in.
Well, I think he's always on air. This news is never ending. He's happy to see her at first and wants to give her a chance to talk, but she talks with a hammer that she pulls out from behind the vase and clubs him to death on air. Really no getting out of that one.
Nope, there are thousands of witnesses over the airwaves. She runs, police are shooting at her. They corner her and tell her to drop the hammer. She has 5 seconds to remain alive.
We get a sense pretty early on that this movie is going for maybe not camp as much as a parody of film noir, maybe a little both.
Anyway, she surrenders, and then the headline comes up, the Hammer Slayer has been captured.
And sentenced to life in prison at the state penitentiary.
Next up, we're going to meet Carol Madison. She's sitting by the pool with her father, who's an actor, and she's helping him go over some lines.
Carol's a playwright and screenwriter, and she wrote a play called The Witch Hunt that her dad's going to star in.
It's about the current events of the time, the House Un-American Committee with Joseph McCarthy and the Red Scare.
Yeah, they're holding hearings on TV. And we saw a little bit of that in the previous vignette. I think the communism thing is woven through here just a little bit, just to give you a sense of what's going on.
And it must be a really good play because at the premiere performance, when Joseph McCarthy starts yelling, "Are you a communist? Are you a communist?" to the character that Gordon Madison is playing on stage, the audience gets really into it.
I wouldn't say they got into it unless you mean they hated it. They start booing and then a fight breaks out.
I took it to mean that he was a communist and they got into it.
They couldn't distinguish fiction from reality?
That's how I interpreted it.
Not me. I interpreted it as they didn't like the implication that Joseph McCarthy was doing anything wrong. That's how I interpreted it. But you could be right too.
They didn't think he was doing anything wrong, so they're going to go after the other guy. They didn't attack the Joseph McCarthy character. They went after Carol's father because he was a communist and denying it.
All right, you could be right.
Maybe it's open to interpretation. That's what I thought.
Well, anyway, they do attack Carol's dad, and she tries to defend him.
Somehow the crowd is pulled off of him, and he's left lying there, and he's just mumbling to himself, "Are you a communist? Are you a communist?"
It was the last line of the play before the brawl broke out. And he's still babbling that in the next scene, where he's in bed, he's in an asylum. A doctor is tending to him, and Carol's at his bedside.
Carol's refusing to have him committed, but the doctor tells her that she can't help him, but there are doctors who can. They're experts in shock treatment.
And Carol gives in. She really has no choice. Then we find her in a bar. She's watching the same Joseph McCarthy hearings on TV.
The real McCarthy hearings. She's watching a recreation for us of the McCarthy hearings, but it's the actual McCarthy hearings for her.
I love the old-fashioned TVs in this. This one, it looks like you're watching it through a porthole, and it's just cool to see the old equipment. I kind of have a fondness for that. He starts watching the hearings too, and then starts mouthing off about the commie bitch testifying.
Carol snaps and breaks a bottle over his head and kills him, apparently, because she's sentenced to life in prison. Next up, we're meeting Aggie O'Hanlon. She's riding a motorbike with a guitar strapped to her back, and she rides up to a recording studio, Olympia Records, and goes inside.
We go into the office of the head of Olympia Records, Boss Ed Johnson, and he's reading the riot act to his staff for failing to find new talent. One of those staff is Jennifer. She's the talent scout, and he's also having a temper tantrum at Miranda, the receptionist. And that's when Aggie enters.
Yeah, she walks in at a very bad time, so Boss Johnson continues his tirade on her.
She puts her demo tape on his desk, and he says he hates amateurs, and then the two start physically fighting.
She picks up an ashtray and starts beating him with it. She says she wants her song back. She's not going to leave it with this lunatic. Miranda and Jennifer force her out the door.
But luckily, one of them grabs her guitar, so she didn't have to leave that behind.
But she has to leave the tape behind. And then Boss Johnson complains that he was hit with his favorite ashtray. One of his kids made it for him.
Aw. In the next scene, though, we find out that he had a change of heart. It's night, and he calls Miranda at home, apologizes, and says that he listened to her demo and would like her to come in.
She excitedly does, and he starts getting her stats. She's 17, her parents died in a car accident, and she wrote the song, Endless Sleep.
She's a daughter of jazz musicians.
And they died in a car accident.
He offers her a contract and asks her to come in tomorrow at 11 a.m. to sign it. And then he says Jennifer's the one that convinced him to give her another chance.
Aggie goes home and sleeps well that night. Ed sleeps well too. He's at his desk with that tape in his hand when someone in a black overcoat and black gloves stabs him in the back 16 times.
Someone with a lot of animus towards him.
The next day, there's a murder investigation going on. There's a cleaning woman in tears, and the detective gives her a cup of coffee to try to help calm her down.
And Boss Johnson is still draped over his desk, soaked in blood.
Miranda and Jennifer are both brought in and questioned.
And in sync, each giving part of the story, they go back and forth telling about how it must have been Aggie and why.
As for Aggie, she's at home playing a lover's concerto on the piano. I suppose she wrote that one too.
You say that for a reason.
Endless Sleep was not written by anyone named Aggie O'Hanlon. It was written by Jody Reynolds, who recorded the hit version back in 1957.
I wouldn't have known that if it weren't for you.
Well, I'm a music nerd.
I know. The detective we saw in the office knocks on Aggie's door. When she opens it, he explains that Boss Johnson was murdered last night, and Aggie faints. He revives her and then interrogates her.
He starts with, why did you stab him to death? He says you had a motive, and why did you go to his office if not to kill him? But she explains what happened, and it's as we saw it. But the thing is, they didn't find the tape, so they think it's odd that she said she left it there, and they didn't find it.
Never considering that maybe the murderer took it. Campion says that she'll be tested to find out if she's insane, and if the results are negative, she's going to be tried for murder.
The newspaper headline tells us that Aggie was found sane and will go to trial for stabbing a record producer 16 times.
Gotta get the 16 times in there. Now Jennifer, Miranda, and a guy named Borcelino are out celebrating. They make a toast to Aggie, and Jennifer makes out with Borcelino.
Another headline says that Aggie was found guilty, and a further one says that she is sentenced to life in prison.
Yep, we see her getting unloaded from the police wagon with a bunch of other girls and going in for processing, which of course includes a group shower scene.
In the shower, she's watching a couple of girls make out. We recognize them as Carol and Melba, the previous felons.
So now they're all together. Aggie gets taken to her cell, passing by all the other inmates, and Melba is her cellie. Melba welcomes her to hell, and then explains her temporary lesbianism and Carol's permanent lesbianism.
And now we're in Carol's cell, and one of the other new arrivals is brought in to be her new roommate. This is Suzy. Suzy notices the autographed picture of Carol's dad that she has on her wall with the formal inscription. It's kind of funny.
Dear daughter, best wishes, Dad. Suzy's hot for her dad. She wants a picture for herself, and maybe more. So I think it's about time for a prison yard fight. What do you think?
Yeah, we haven't been to the prison yard yet. Let's go there.
Yeah, don't waste any time. And of course, there is a brawl. The guards at first leave them to their own devices, but then they change their mind and they get hoses to hose everybody down because you got to be wet, right? You got to have wet women in tight dresses. Sort of the whole point of the prison exercise.
Well, the brawl was actually started for another reason. Apparently, there's a hit on Aggie, and Rita is the one who's going to try to perform this hit.
Somehow she smuggled in a knife. She actually stabs Aggie, right?
It looks like she gets stabbed in the front of the shoulder, but she's got her arm in the sling later.
Well, maybe they just did that so she doesn't move it around too much. It doesn't matter. She only wears that sling for like one scene. And Rita, the perpetrator, got stomped to death in the yard. The girls turn feral and turn on people on a dime, and they're not above killing people, and I guess they just get allowed to. The guards will only stop certain things.
So in the next scene, Aggie's back in her cell with her arm in that sling, and I guess Melba has been doing a little reconnaissance because she tells her that she found out that Rita had a contract to kill Aggie, and she was lucky this time. But this time infers that there will be a next time.
The person who wants her dead still wants her dead. Somehow, Melba has booze. How do people get this stuff? Knives, liquor? Aren't there rules?
Rules are made to be broken.
And then Aggie tells her story, and we've already seen it told twice, but the important thing, I think, is that she never copyrighted her song. So anybody could have published it under a different name.
Melba formally asked the question.
And let's go back to Olympia Records. I thought Jennifer was going to be the person in charge in this scene, but Borcelino's there.
Jennifer's a woman. She can't be in charge of anything. It's the 50s.
Maybe she's the power behind the throne.
Well, she is.
She's sitting on his lap and making out with them, though. And then some guy named Mickey comes in.
He's a DJ.
And he makes Jennifer go get him a drink. So he's treating her not like the power behind the throne. He's treating her like the office girl. Could have made Miranda do that.
Mickey says it's too bad what happened to Boss Johnson, but nobody there is feeling that vibe.
Now, they're happy that he's gone. Obviously, they killed him. Anyway, Mickey's there to get some payola money.
Yeah, they hand him a 45 of their new single they want to have played, with a bunch of bills hanging out of it as well. And the song we see is Endless Sleep by Leslie Beatty.
And we'll tell you why they use the name Leslie Beatty later.
Jennifer asked if he'd like to listen to it, but he says, nah, that's not a requirement.
It's all about the money, baby. And now we're in prison with Carol, Melba, Aggie, and Suzy, and they're in the cafeteria. They have to sit alone. Nobody else wants to sit with them. So they're outcasts somehow?
Yeah, they sit in a corner table.
Or are they like a clique that nobody else can join? Maybe a little of both.
Well, I think the point is right now they don't know who they can and can't trust because there's a hit out on Aggie and they've all vowed to protect her. Melba says that they should be okay for a while because it takes time to set up a hit. But in the meantime, they need to figure out who can and can't be trusted, which is what I just said.
They don't really explain this very well, I don't think, but there's someone named Greta who's going to help them and they have to help her escape. And they engineer some laundry room distraction, throw Greta in a laundry cart and take her to where she can get away. I don't really remember the mechanics of this, but the point is she escapes. Did you see something I didn't?
No, they just have a scene where Carol has her in the laundry basket and is bringing her down the hall. And they had some sort of a distraction that everybody was running back to the laundry room for. They drop her off with another woman and...
Yeah, I don't know how she got from the office that they drop her at to the fence where she climbs over.
She's escorted by another prisoner, which is odd.
She gets over the fence really easy, too. I guess they hadn't invented barbed wire yet. The next scene, we get to hear Aggie sing her song to herself in her cell. I thought she had a good voice.
Yeah, she's fine.
That singer is fine. She doesn't have a lot of power behind it. She sounds a little like Jewel.
She looks a little like Jewel.
Yeah, that's true.
Now we're back in Carol and Suzy's cell, and Suzy's telling her story to Carol. She said she was caught making out with a 14-year-old boy. She was 11 at the time, so she was sent to reform school.
What? Is that how that works?
Did in this case.
It led to a life of pornography, and she actually worked for Borcelino.
The reason she's in prison now is she shot a cop with his own gun for slapping Borcelino.
She shot his balls off. She seems very gleeful at this.
She had to do it. He slapped him.
Stand by your man.
Now we're back in the cell with Aggie and Melba, and Aggie accuses Melba of not believing her story, but Melba says she does. Aggie seems overjoyed that Melba says that she believes her story.
Nobody ever has before now. Melba got a letter from Greta, who's on the outside. She burns it and then tells Aggie that there really wasn't anything in it, but she's still going to get to the bottom of this mystery.
Yeah, she wants to know, why would a killer take her song? And believes if they find it, that will prove her innocence.
I don't know how that works.
Well, it would lead to the person who did the murder if she didn't do it, because the murderer obviously took the tape.
Okay, but they're playing the song on the radio, and all they have to do is look up who published it. And we know where it was left.
But we don't know who specifically. I don't know how big Olympia Records is, but there's at least 3 employees.
There could be only 3 employees, because we don't see any more. Helping her will be Lum Fong, her boss at the radio and TV shop, and Lum's friend, Lucky. He's a private detective.
He's an ex-cop and a friend of Melba's family.
And if you can't trust an ex-cop who's a friend of the family, who can you trust?
So I guess it's visiting day at the prison because everybody has a visitor.
There's 4 different conversations. Let's go through them.
First, Carol is meeting with her father's doctor. He gives an update, and she's concerned that he's never going to speak again.
Yeah, he stopped babbling and then went mute. But before he went mute, he said one thing. Carol killed a cancer. No idea what that means.
Oh, and one other thing that happened was the doctor asked if she needed anything, and she said that she did an autographed picture for her cellmate.
Oh, right, yeah.
And he says, yeah, I can get you that, but you'll have to sign it yourself.
I'm sure somebody else always signed those. Okay, now to Melba. She's talking with Lum Fong, who says the guy she killed was a bad dude, a Nazi type, and they're going to try and use that to get Melba out. So maybe Melba will also be free one day. I don't think the movie ever lets us know one way or the other, though.
Aggie is meeting with Lucky, that detective. She's concerned about what this will cost, but he tells her that Lum Fong is paying and Aggie can pay him back once she's released.
I think she has money because she lives in her house alone, the house that her parents must have left her. She's only 17.
She's probably 18 by now because she did say she'd be 18 next week.
Okay. But when we met her, she had her own house and she was 17. So she must have some money because she doesn't know that she's going to have a hit single. And last, Borcelino dared show his face in the prison. He's talking to Suzy, his ex, or current flame.
Yeah, he's trying to use her to put a hit on Aggie. She's reluctant because Aggie's her friend, and she's also sworn to be her bodyguard.
But her allegiance to Borcelino trumps everything.
Oh, plus he tugs at her heartstrings by starting to cry and says he doesn't want to die, and she doesn't love him anymore.
Because if he gets implicated, he's going to the gas chamber, he says. He plays on her guilt.
And she actually questions this because he supposedly didn't commit the murder, but he says he's an accomplice.
I think she did it just so he would stop having that embarrassing display in front of everybody.
For whatever reason, she says she'll do it, and he says, good girl. The tears are suddenly gone. In the next scene, we're at a diner, and this doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No. Some girl comes in, puts Endless Sleep on the jukebox, and gives the guy who's behind the counter some money. Does payola extend to jukeboxes in small diners with almost nobody in attendance? Seems like a waste of money.
It's a grassroots campaign, I guess. Lucky, the detective, comes in and starts roughing up the guy behind the counter, again for no real reason.
He must know about the jukebox scheme and wants information on who instigated it?
That's got to be it, but there isn't really anything to tell us that that's what it is.
No, just our own guesses.
This is followed by a research montage where the detective is trying to determine who's behind this.
He must be at the police station. He's looking through a book of mugshots. And when he sees Borcelino, he puts his finger right on it. That's the guy.
He goes to Olympia Records and questions Miranda. She gives a story of what she knows, which was the first visit of Aggie to the record company.
Miranda's telling everything she knows, which was more than the police knew. And then Jennifer comes in and she clams up.
Yeah, we don't know how much Miranda knows.
I think she knows too much.
Next, there's a brief scene in the prison laundry again. We find out Greta, after sending that message she couldn't find out anything, made it back to Cuba, so she's free.
Yay. And then we see Suzy glaring at Aggie meaningfully. Aggie's in her sights. This next scene, what the heck's going on?
For some reason, the prisoners have all been gathered to see a strip show.
Yeah, it's kind of burlesque-like in that there's no boobs out.
It's all women, and they're dressed as men. Some of them have mustaches painted on their faces.
And they do a slow striptease. They basically just take off their coats and show off their bras. And everyone's really into it. But as you'd expect, then a fight breaks out.
Yeah, do they do this in prison? It seems like a bad idea.
I know that you can have Elvis come in and sing Jailhouse Rock.
Elvis was a prisoner, but he came back at the end.
But to have a strip show, that seems like they would just charge up the inmates way too much. It's not good for keeping order.
Well, the guard seems to be enjoying it too, but I don't think it's a good idea.
Obviously not. Like I said, the inevitable brawl breaks out. Stoneface, the guard, is on the floor and everybody dogpiles on top of him.
Melba, Carol, and Suzy are pressing Aggie against the wall to protect her.
Oh, are they?
But as we know, Suzy's on a mission, and she pulls out a knife. Everyone starts screaming, "Hit girl!" This alerts the other prisoners. They don't like hit girls. It's the equivalent of stoolies. So Suzy's cornered in the wall, and she's waving the knife out at people, and realizing she has no other choice, she chooses to stab herself.
In the heart. Later they're going to say that she plunged a screwdriver into her own heart. But it's not a screwdriver. It's a knife.
It didn't look like a screwdriver to me.
No. It's the same knife that Rita had at the first attempted hit scene.
Or at least from the same set.
They have 8 of those in the kitchen. And then the girls jump on and start pummeling her corpse. There's a lot of unresolved anger in these women.
In the next scene, we see Jennifer on the phone with Borcelino. She's informing him that all her prison contacts are dead and they still haven't successfully performed this hit.
Then she tells him that she's going to go where no one can find her. She's packing a bag.
As Borcelino hangs up, Lucky the detective comes in for a visit.
It's not a social call. I think Lucky's put all the pieces together at this point.
Yep, he's ready to make his accusation. You stole her song, and if they can prove it, they can tag you with murder.
Borcelino denies it, and Borcelino attacks Lucky, who attacks back, beats the crap out of him.
Well, he attacks him because he called him Pancho.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he goes, "You got the wrong guy, Pancho." And then Lucky just starts beating him with his gun. And this beating causes Borcelino to confess. He cries Jennifer did it.
He's a weak, weak man.
But Lucky keeps going. And then when he finishes, he says, "Name's Lucky." He throws the gun at Borcelino's body and leaves.
And now it's time for Jennifer to go on the lam, or so we think. But first, she's got to change her appearance. She takes her long brown locks and chops off most of it. And then she gets out a bottle of peroxide. She's going blonde.
At the same time, Lucky is visiting Aggie. He's telling her what he knows. Jennifer stole the song, and she's using it as a front to sell dope.
Actually, that goes back to the scene where Mickey came in. Aside from the money, they paid him in diet pills for his mother. It's all speed. They're giving out speed and money.
We also learned that Miranda was found dead with 16 stab wounds.
So she did know something.
He also mentions that Suzy's name came up in conversation, and Aggie should watch out for her.
And Aggie informs him that Suzy's dead. No watching required. He says he's got to find Jennifer to prove that she stole the song and promises all manner of torture to find out what he wants.
He says he won't kill her, but he's not going to let Aggie die in there either. And now we see that Jennifer is turning herself in for theft to Detective Campion.
She stole some jewels and fesses up. She wants to go to prison to carry out the hit herself, but why would you go to prison when your whole goal is to not go to prison? She wants to do 8 to 10 years instead of life? I don't get it. Because when you go to the state penitentiary, that's not petty theft. That's big crime.
Well, these were diamonds, so it's not petty theft either.
No. So what's her game?
I just think she hasn't thought it all through.
Maybe she really wants to kill Aggie. And now Jennifer gets her own shower scene. She drops the soap so that Aggie has to retrieve it for her. I couldn't believe she didn't recognize Jennifer when they meet face to face in the scene.
Well, she saw her once, and her hair was different. She wouldn't recognize her. She wouldn't even recognize her later.
She does recognize her later.
I know she does, but she wouldn't.
Well, if she didn't recognize her now, she wouldn't recognize her later.
She saw Jennifer once, and there was that brawl going on. Jennifer, she wasn't even paying attention to.
Well, we don't know what happened after they hustled her out of the office, though.
Then Jennifer is brought to her cell. She's going to be Carol's new roommate. She gives her name as Gilda Grady and notices the picture of Gordon on the wall and asks Carol, "Isn't your father in the nut house?"
I don't think Carol wants to talk about that. I think naming herself Gilda was a nod to Rita Hayworth's character, famous film noir actress. Jennifer also asked Carol about Suzy and what happened to her.
This is where she gives the story that it was a screwdriver instead of a knife.
Maybe in the scuffle, she didn't get a good look at it. We're back in the laundry, and Aggie and Gilda meet up again, and Aggie remembers her from the shower.
Gilda looks panicked for half a second there and then realizes that her true identity is still safe. Next, it's chow time, and Gilda joins Carol, Aggie, and Melba at that corner table.
She's in the clique.
Then the guard comes over and tells Carol that the warden wants to see her.
I knew it was going to happen in this scene before it happened. I knew her dad was going to be dead, and that's what she finds out when she visits the warden.
Yeah, it didn't come as a shock.
But it is a shock to Carol, and she goes apeshit.
She starts screaming and throwing things, and the guard takes her, I guess, to solitary. She's lying alone, and she's in a straitjacket.
That's what I thought at first, but it looked like she was in the infirmary because there are more than one bed around her.
Ah, okay.
I think she might eventually end up in something like solitary. She doesn't go back to Gen Pop ever.
Gilda laughs as they drag her off, and she now has that whole cell to herself.
And she says, "One down." Now Aggie has a visitor. It's Lucky again. He reports that Jennifer is MIA. They can't find her.
She asks, "What about Borcelino?" And he says that he ain't talking. He's in a coma.
Right, so he's out of commission. Lucky tells Aggie that there are going to be 4 female cops in plain clothes guarding her from now on.
Yeah, the warden told him that they suspect there's another hit girl in the prison.
I find it hard to believe that the warden would be this cooperative for one prisoner. I would find it more believable that they think that she's making it up or they don't care because she's a killer.
I don't know. They did that in the original Girls in Prison. If you remember, the warden was going to look into having her sent to another facility.
Right, but they didn't put bodyguards around her, not police bodyguards. That seems like an official act that would require cooperation with the justice system that convicted her.
Well, technically, if you're in prison, you're not supposed to die on their watch of anything but natural causes.
Doesn't seem like they care too much, though, because it's already happened, or almost happened.
They don't necessarily do much to prevent it, but technically not supposed to happen.
Well, 2 people have died so far that we know of.
And that's just this prison. I'm just talking in real life. That's not supposed to happen. But
Right.
It happens all the time. We know that.
Just why do they care about Aggie as opposed to everyone else? That's my question. Now we're at the prison's version of forced family fun.
An announcement is made to the prisoners that there's going to be some sort of a recreation day and there's a mandatory potato sack race. The next scene is Aggie in the warden's office. They say they can put her in solitary for her protection, but she instead chooses to participate to try to bring the hit girl out in the open.
She'll be the bait. So now we go outside to the race. Not everybody's racing, though. There's just a few people. Gilda is one of them, and Aggie is one of them.
And Melba's there too.
So as they hop on down to the finish line, it seems like some other prisoners are taking out anyone who might possibly help Aggie.
I don't know if they're all going for that motivation. I think some of them just really want to win. I don't know what the prize is. Maybe they get released.
Right.
Because some of them are really desperate to win this race.
Maybe they get chocolate. That'd be worth it.
I mean, Melba gets knocked down. Gilda gets knocked down at one point too.
And as all activities go in the prison, it ends in a brawl.
They're almost to the finish line, but nobody actually crosses it.
No.
But the brawl starts because Gilda crawls over to Aggie with a knife and tries to stab her.
We got to end this thing.
And this is when Aggie actually recognizes her as Jennifer.
They brawl a bit, and somehow Aggie gets her up on her feet and a bullhorn in front of her mouth so that Jennifer can confess to everybody. This was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, and she does confess because all the other prisoners have her surrounded because they don't like hit girls, as we know. And she confesses to being the mastermind behind the whole thing. Borcelino works for her. She stole the song, and it was all a front for this drug operation.
And Aggie asks why she stole her song. And Jennifer says, it was great.
Yeah, she knew it'd be a hit.
And then Jennifer's dragged off.
And the Los Angeles Chronicle continues with its headlines. Aggie leaves prison.
But we also get a headline from Variety.
Aggie's song a hit.
So Aggie is released to enjoy her newfound success.
But she goes back anyway. She's been invited back to perform her hit song, Endless Sleep, which she wrote for the girls in prison.
Carol seems to be a bit better. She's in a wheelchair, but she seems to be responding to the music, and Melba's right behind her. And for once, a brawl does not break out. We get to hear the song in its entirety.
Well, we fade to credits, and we get to hear the song in its entirety again, but this time performed by Concrete Blonde. And we notice you noticed this in the credits.
The name of the art department coordinator is Leslie M. Beatty, which was a name on the record.
It was spelled differently, but we see you, Leslie.
Can't be a coincidence. Anyway, that's the end.
You're listening to the American International Podcast, where we're discussing the Girls in Prison episode of Rebel Highway from 1994.
Director John McNaughton also directed Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and Wild Things. Sam Fuller, who wrote Pick Up on South Street, Hell and High Water, and Let's Get Harry, wrote the script along with his wife, Christa Lang. This was his last film before his death in 1997.
Variety's review of Girls in Prison called it a kitchen sink assemblage of 50s topics, but is fundamentally a genre piece, complete with obligatory shower scene, lesbian encounter, and catfights. Rather clunky, it is not the series' finest 82 minutes. McNaughton takes it rather straight, with actors slightly overplaying. Fuller and Lang's script could have used a few jokes, or at least a knowing wink.
The AV Club's Nathan Rabin wrote, Girls in Prison is clearly intended as a campy, over-the-top romp, but McNaughton never gets a grasp on his material. Even the film's ostensible set pieces, catfights, prison riots, and a last-minute confession broadcast via megaphone to the entire prison yard, feel static and lifeless. Of the actors, only Heche seems to grasp the inherent absurdity of the proceedings. She gives a funny, engaging performance, which is, unfortunately, about all Girls in Prison has going for it.
In Jonathan Rosenbaum's blog, The Way We Weren't, he wrote, Fuller and Lang's energy is such that the movie never really slows down or becomes any more reflective over the 73 minutes that remain. With a manic performance by John Polito as a record producer and the extensive use of a pop song about death, Endless Sleep, written by the third teenage heroine, the movie manages to remain delirious throughout its convoluted story. It's much too goofy to take as a straight 50s story, But as a fever dream about the 50s, it beats any AIP original I can think of.
Will Kauf, writing for his Silver Emulsion blog, said, McNaughton does a great job at making what could be a drab prison movie burst at the seams with personality and color to heighten reality even further. The use of colored lights are strong choices, reminiscent of the 60s, where usually in the 90s you'd see something much more subdued. This had the effect of making Girls in Prison seem like an older film, and coupled with the straight-up film noir script by Sam Fuller and his wife Christa Lang, I feel like this one could have easily been made in the black and white era as a serious women in prison film.
So Cheryl, this is the 5th episode of Rebel Highway that we've looked at, which means we're about halfway through the series. What did you think of Girls in Prison?
I liked it. I thought they did give knowing winks to the material, and I thought they did realize what the assignment was. Make a movie based on the title, not so much the original, although we did see a lot of things that carried over from the original, and make it fun, make it colorful, make it bright, make it a little 90s, but keep that 50s vibe. I think they succeeded in that.
Well, I don't think that the things that we saw brought in from the original were necessarily because of that, but more because they're tropes that are used in almost all of these women in prison films.
That's true, but I haven't seen that many women in prison films, to be honest. So I'm thinking of the ones that we watched for the podcast and seeing similarities that may or may not be there on purpose. And I don't think it really matters if they're there on purpose or not, because you want to take this story on its own merit. I think this movie is worth it.
In the order that we've watched these episodes of Rebel Highway, every other one has been dark. I would say that Road Racers, Motorcycle Gang, and this one definitely had a darker feel than Sorority Girl and Runaway Daughters.
I think Road Racers, yes, it was dark, but is there a way to be dark in a light way? Because it was funny, and they had fun with it. Bad things happened, terrible things happened. I mean, it's a Robert Rodriguez movie, but I wasn't dragged down by the darkness, and I wasn't in this movie either.
I'm not necessarily talking about darkness as a mood. I'm talking the movie's dark, whereas Sorority Girl and Runaway Daughters were very brightly lit.
Why did the one reviewer refer to the colored lights being used here? I didn't really see that myself, but they did add that burst of red whenever they could. Red lipstick, red nail polish, red blood.
Well, yeah, they have to emphasize how much Maybelline you can get in prison.
You can get that and booze and pictures of film stars.
I didn't notice any Easter eggs here, except for the Leslie Beatty thing, which was kind of amusing, but that was only if you paid attention to the whole movie. It wasn't a reference to another movie or AIP at all. But I really did appreciate the camp in this one.
I did too. I would hope that in every episode that the directors would camp it up a bit to have fun with it. I don't want to see a dreary crime movie. I want something that's fun and light, even if it is being dark.
And this was a dreary prison. Everything's gray. Their uniforms are denim.
That's why the pop of red really stands out.
And the scenes that didn't take place in the prison, the opening sequences and the stuff in Olympia Records office and that diner scene that doesn't make any sense, all look kind of out of place with the darkness of the prison footage.
Well, that's true, but maybe that's intentional so that we contrast how dark life is inside the prison compared to normal life.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I don't know. The one thing that really bothered me was that they used a real song to move the plot along that exists. There's recordings that people wrote it who aren't in this movie. I thought she should have gone to jail for plagiarism.
Yes, but isn't that a white-collar crime? If you have enough money, you could probably get out of that one. If they didn't do that, they would have had to write their own pop song and then perform that, and it might not be as good. It's a really nice song. But yeah, you were really bugged by that. You never missed a chance to mention, that's not her song.
The soundtrack album for the Rebel Highway series, there's one song from each episode. So I don't know if they were assigned a song to put in the movie. I wonder how that worked.
I think it would be up to the production team to come up with something like that. And this movie only uses one song, whereas the other ones we've watched had several songs on them. They were not all on the soundtrack, but each movie had several songs that played in the background to kind of set the 50s tone. Let's see if that carries on for the rest of the episodes. Music is such a cultural touchstone. Even people like us who weren't alive in the 50s know what that means.
I don't know if all the hairstyles really conveyed that in this one. The wardrobe was so basic. I mean, the women were in dresses that tracks. The guys were in suits, but they didn't necessarily look like suits of the 50s. Not that they've changed that much over the years. Guys' fashion doesn't change.
No, but they give off the cheap suit vibe. I thought Ione Skye's character, her whole look was the "We Can Do It" from the 40s Women in War poster, but it's the 50s. It's the Korean War time now. So I don't know if she just was really stuck on that style or it was retro for her. It looks good on her, but kind of odd.
When we first meet Aggie, she's in jeans and riding that motorbike down the road with a guitar strapped to her back, and it looked more 90s than 50s.
It really did. She looked like a 90s kid. Her hair was shaggy and loose. It should have been pulled back in a chignon or something. They had Melba in headscarves, which seemed very 50s.
Yeah, it's not like they avoided it, but I don't think they put a lot of effort into making it seem like the 1950s.
Suzy looked like a pinup girl. Her hair was kind of short and curly, big curls, big round curls, and she had bright red lips. And just her whole look was probably too soon to be a Marilyn Monroe homage, but it did seem kind of like that.
After Anne Heche's character cuts her hair and has Anne Heche hair, that definitely has a 90s feel.
Yeah, she looks exactly like she looked then. She took her wig off and, well, now she's Anne Heche. But nobody knew Anne Heche in the 1950s, so she can get away with that.
Okay, so why don't you tell me what you think about Girls in Prison using our AIP scale, where A is awesome, I is intermediate, and P is pathetic.
Well, we've watched now 5 of these, and of the 5, this is probably my least favorite, but I still like it a lot. I think because we have to compare it to Runaway Daughters and Road Racers, which were so good, and I enjoyed them so much. And even Sorority Girl and Motorcycle Gang were just a little bit of a notch above this. And yet I want to give it an A because they knew what this whole idea was about and they carried through admirably. The result was exactly what I thought it should be. A little bit of a nod to film noir, a little bit of a nod to the kinds of movies that they're parodying, and yet something fresh and fun and new. So I think it's definitely an A for me. What do you think?
I enjoyed this one too, but I agree this is probably the least of the 5 that we've watched so far. I would give it points over Sorority Girl just for having an original story.
That's true. That was a direct ripoff. This may have unintentionally cribbed some elements, but it may not have.
I think there was just some time in the past where women in prison movies just stopped playing it straight and camp just became an important element.
But I don't know if that was the case for the original Girls in Prison.
No, I think those were still playing it straight back then. And we covered 99 Women on this podcast, and I don't think that was too campy.
No, I wouldn't say.
There may have been a touch of it.
I don't think Reform School Girl was that campy either. That was more of a melodrama.
Oh, definitely.
And I'm glad they didn't go that route with this movie.
I have to just look at this as kind of being an alternate universe where Aggie O'Hanlon actually did write Endless Sleep. And then I'm okay with it. I'm going to give this one an A as well.
If you're watching the Rebel Highway series along with us, or if you're not, we'd love to hear from you. The way to get in touch with us is to go to our website, aippod.com. Even if you don't want to get in touch with us, while you're there, you can look at posters, lobby cards, watch trailers, find out more information about the movies we've covered, links to our other episodes. We'd love to see you there, aippod.com.
We also have a list of movies that we're searching for, so if you can help us find any of those, we'd love to be able to cover them on future episodes of the podcast.
And we also have a store, so check out our merch. Anything that you purchase will help us keep the podcast going. That's aippod.com.
Okay, it seems we've served our sentence, and it's time to release this episode of American International Podcast. I'm Jeff Markin.
I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in. Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.